Fergal, preventative medicine to me is one that we can really target in terms of the sustainability of Irish farming compared to our international counterparts.
Yeah, I think that vaccination is something that will really help us to improve the health of our animals, maximise production, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, but most importantly reduce antibiotic use. But it's interesting, I mean, if you look at it, only about 25% of calves are vaccinated in Ireland to prevent either diarrhoea or respiratory disease. And the scope to grow, if you go to the pig and poultry industry, it'd be unthinkable not to vaccinate to prevent those diseases. But I think over time, as we restrict antibiotics even more, that the level of vaccination of both diarrhoea and respiratory disease will rise.
And there's a recognition amongst the general public of the value of vaccination. It's used in human health resources. So if we use it in the animal kingdom as well, then obviously it reflects well on us.
Very much so, and I think one of the things that we should always recognise is that vaccines have been used to eradicate diseases. So in human medicine, smallpox is eradicated. In animal health, actually, in 2011, rinderpest, which is cattle plague, was eradicated for the first time globally. But in Ireland, we've actually been quite successful at eradicating brucellosis, and we're in the process of eradicating BVD at the moment. So we're a number of years into the eradication programme, and that's on track to eradicate BVD.
Brian, as a frontline farmer and talking to farmers regularly, there is increasing, I know it's not probably at the level it should be at, but there is increasing buy-in amongst farmers of the need to engage in preventative medicine, the need to up their game in terms of being able to say, listen, I have the highest welfare standards possible.
Yeah, listen, Irish farmers have a very good story to tell there in terms of welfare standards, and you know, we have a good story to tell in terms of antibiotic use, but we have to be aware that there could be a restriction coming down the line on them, you know, and healthy animals are carbon efficient animals. That's a good story as well, you know, that's a real positive story for us to sell. Like, speaking of my own personal farm at home, my own farm at home, vaccination is a very, very important strategy in our animal health plan. We find while vaccinations are a cost we carry, we don't carry a cost in call-outs or anything like that. So preventive medicine is kind of our insurance policy, you know what I mean? So
you're very much into highlighting, and you did it here again today, into highlighting the need to counteract the negative vibes and the negative news stories that come from those who are antagonistic to farming.
Yeah.
Tell me about how important it is that every farmer engages in that.
It's critical, Matt. So there is a block of people out there, we call them the middle ground, who are very, very hungry for information in how their food is produced, and the people behind the food, you know. And if farmers aren't telling our story there, if we aren't engaging with that middle ground, they'll go and find that information somewhere else, and it could be, God forbid, a Google search, and we really don't want them going there. Or it could be an activist, an NGO activist, and like those anti-agriculture activists, they will turn the agenda to suit their side of the story. And the great thing about farmers we don't have to turn any agenda. We just tell our story. We be truthful, factful, honest, and transparent. And I think the story sells itself, you know, and that'll build trust. It's all about building trust.
Yeah, and even things that we don't fully realise that are around us in the built heritage or the natural landscape. This idea that we have enough hedgerows, which are a natural carbon sink, that we have enough hedgerows to circumnavigate the world 4 times, and yet nobody seems to realise that this is unique.
Yeah. Oh, it's completely. Anywhere you travel in the world, you know, you see it a bit in the UK, but continental Europe, continental America, I've never seen it anywhere else. You know, and how farmers manage that hedgerow. You know, never like we can like obviously carbon sequestration is very important, but their wildlife corridors, their habitats, their biodiversity. These are all challenges these are all questions farmers are being asked. Like, what are you doing in these areas? We can quite legitimately point to our hedgerows and, you know, our wooded areas and say that's delivering for what people are looking for there, you know.
Fergal Morris, I assume, coming from the industry side, I assume you realise the importance of cooperation between the service sectors, as I'll put you, and the frontline farmer.
It's a very good point. We had a colleague over from Holland recently, and we brought him to meet people in the milk processors, and some farmers, some of the veterinary organisations. They were really, really impressed with the way we would collaborate. And a good example of it is Animal Health Ireland. So if you look at it, Animal Health Ireland is partly funded by the department and partly funded by the milk processors. And that was a system that was set up to deal with non-notifiable diseases. The first one was BVD, and we're on track to eradicate BVD on the next few years. They're also looking at potentially IBR eradication, control of iones, calf health, and they were very impressed with the way the industry collaborated. So you have vets, for example, that give their time free to be involved in the technical working groups of Animal Health Ireland. There's farmers involved in that group as well. So I think that organisation is a classic example how we've worked together and collaborated for the good of the industry.
Fergal Morris of MSD and Brian Rush of IFA, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.